Right, g'day. Welcome back to the episode. Let's get a few things off the table first before we go into this episode. This episode is going to be a good one. You guys have been requesting them, so I'm going to continue with the theme at the moment. Elbow-wise, I've got to go and see a specialist still. We don't know what's going on. I'm still in a lot of pain. So casting-wise and winding, even doing that, the tendons are hurting. So fishing action for me has been a bit slow. Been doing a lot of guides lately. Well, when I say a lot of guides, I've been doing a fair few. That's in between the weather. The weather has held up everything at the moment, and everyone knows. In Victoria, we've had the smallest windows. It's literally last minute, dropped off the hat, you got to go. That's Victoria for you. We're having the worst spring I can ever remember on record. Snapper are just starting to fire up right now. I'll go into one little thing quickly. Do not believe the hype of social media. You're seeing 2s, 3s, 4, 5s, 6s getting caught. Some are bagging out big time. That's not the case everywhere in Melbourne, so it's just a small majority that find those big schools that are feeding still. The water temperature is finally coming up, so now we should start to see some good action. Albeit what the doctor says with the elbow this week, hopefully I can start getting back into some fishing myself with a bit more strong painkillers and stuff like that. I have a few guides coming up as well as soon as this wind backs off, so guiding has taken up more fishing time of me at the moment as well as the elbows, so hopefully I can go out there and get a fish or two myself pretty damn soon. Otherwise, if you need a guide, shoot me an email, it's here below, and I'll get you guys onto some rip and snapper, put it that way. So the guides are going well, guys. Now, like I said, they are limited for certain species and all that, and it's all for a limited time. So if you need a guide, gummy sharks, snapper, whiting, squid, tuna, trout, redfin, Chinook salmon, you name it, hit me up and we'll get it sorted. And yes, I'm doing Chinook salmon. I've had 3 people request them, and I'm going to be taking them on a guide to show them how to do it down at Lake Bullamary. So that's coming up pretty soon. Anyway, let's get into this episode. Now, you have emailed me, you have seen me at boat ramps, going out on guides and stuff. You see me at jetties going for a walk and stuff. You see me in the local shops and emailed, I think I said that, asking me for more tactics episodes. Now, you guys are loving the tactics episodes. You guys are loving the tactics episodes because majority of you are saying, we rather learn than sometimes watch. It's great watching the fish in action, but we rather learn at the same time. So, we're going to go into this week's tactics episode, albeit that's because of the weather too. We had one window, no, we actually had no windows of weather this weekend. That's gone, thanks to Mother Nature. And this week is all looking downhill, except for Saturday, and I think Sunday's looking good. So if you guys are needing a guide this week, hit me up. Otherwise, me and Paul are planning to go out, hopefully, buckle a few rods ourselves and get back into filming as well. Albeit all clear from the doctor first, and the weather plays bloody nice. Anyway, let's get into this week's episode. This week's episode is a gummy tactics episode, guys. So today we're going to be talking about Victoria's most popular and actual reliable species, the gummy shark. Now, why I say reliable, it's because they're almost all year round, and you don't have to actually head out there sounding for them. Believe it or not, we'll go into it, but you don't need your actual sounder to look for them. You need your sounder for other things. So we're going to go into it now. So let's jump into some proven tactics for the gummy sharks that will hopefully help you land more gummy sharks, albeit boat and land-based. So we're going to go straight into it today, guys. So let's cover the first scenario for gummy sharks. Now, we're going to talk about where you find the gummy sharks. Now, gummy sharks are found right along Victoria's coastline, no matter where you go, even in some estuaries as well. All right, you can actually find them in some of the estuaries in Victoria, believe it or not. So they range from Port Phillip Bay, Western Port, all the way through to South Gippsland Coast, Portland, 90 Mile Beach. You know what? They're everywhere. The back of 13th Beach in Port Lonsdale, Barwon Heads, even Apollo Bay. So no matter where you go, you're going to find gummy sharks, and this is why I say they're the most popular and probably easy target species, you know that. So What do the grounds that the gummies prefer? So let's go into this a little bit. All right. So they prefer that sandy, muddy bottom where the reefs are dying. Right. So basically they hang over the rubble where it all starts to die. Almost the same as snapper. All right. Where they can, search around for their food and stuff like that. Now they love to search around the edge of the reefs and stuff. Now why I say that, they love their drop-offs. Yeah. Everyone that has targeted gummies before or getting into gummies would know you need a drop-off when you're targeting gummies. Gutters as well off the edge of beaches and stuff like that. Now that's because there's usually a little bit of rubble on those drop-offs, and where the rubble is, you're going to have all your bait fish and stuff like that. Okay, so and also where those drop-offs are, you're going to have a lot of tide currents, or not a lot of tide current, but some sort of flow. And with gummy sharks, no flow, no go. So we're going to cover that a bit soon. So anywhere where there's a bit of a water movement, so like I said, your gutters, your drop-offs, your channels in the bays and stuff like that, are always going to have a bit of a current coming up and down, right? They move up and down these drop-offs in search of food. Now that's why I say you don't actually use your sounder. You're looking for the drop-offs. You're using your sounder for drop-offs. Now, like I said, there has to be a bit of water movement and stuff like that. Now, in Western Port, the North Arm, Middle Spit, around the reef edges of the edge of those channels, you're going to go really well. So when I talk about North Arm, I'm talking about your Hastings, your Stony Points, you're up near Esso and stuff like that. Western Entrance as well. So down at the Boy 13 and stuff like that, where there's a lot of flow and there is drop-offs, right? So you want to aim for those reef edges as well. So it doesn't actually have to be a big drop-off, guys. So what I'm talking about doesn't have to actually be a big drop-off. It could be just a slight little slope, but that slope has reef. That slope will hold structure, as in reef. It will hold crustaceans. Crustaceans hold bait. Bait fish attract the gummies. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. All right. Now, your prime spots for offshore, they'll hang around that, 25, 30, all the way to 50, 60, 70, 80. Wherever those good drop-offs are offshore as well, that's where you're going to find your gummy sharks. The back of your beaches and stuff like that, you're thinking, hang on, a lot of beaches don't have big drop-offs and reefs and stuff like that. The reason why you find them on the back of those beaches, along the gutters, that's where the water movement is. You'll have your salmon, you'll have your crabs. Now, gummy sharks love crabs. Believe it or not, a lot of them come up with crabs in their guts and stuff like that. I looked for my drink and I found it. Right, so when you're fishing the back of your surf beaches and stuff like that, you need your gutters because that is the drop-off. Yes, that is sand. There might be a bit of weed out there. There might be a little bit of rubble that you don't know about over those gutters. And the gummy sharks are just cruising up and down them, right? Now, gummies, let's go when's the best time to target your gummy sharks? I say, from a personal experience and stuff like that, your best time to target gummy sharks, now everyone's going to love this. This is why I say they're so easy to target, as in time-wise. Gummies, they will bite all year round, right? Your best chances of targeting your gummies are usually your late afternoon into your night. Now, that's when they become more active, all right? Around that new and that full moon, when the tides are moving your strongest. Now, you think about it. You look at your tide graph, all right? Now, the higher the tide graph, the bigger the drop, the bigger the raise in the tides, all right, is what you need. So around your new moon, your full moon, you're going to have a bit of a stronger tide current. And that's why they say, you hear all the gummy shark gurus say, that lead up to the full moon is when you need to target your gummy sharks. And that is because, like I said to you guys before, no flow, no go. Gummy sharks need that bit of water flow. Hence what I was talking about when you're looking for your offshore structures, your bays and stuff, any of the drop-offs will have a bit of water movement up and down it. That's what the gummy sharks need. All right. Now, stronger the tide, sometimes the better. More movement, the better, okay? Sometimes you find them in estuaries. I know in Inverloch that way, they can find them up in the estuaries, Lakes Entrance, they can find them up in the estuaries as well. I've even actually been lucky enough to catch a small one in the Barwon River, believe it or not. So they love that water movement to go hunting, okay? They need that movement also for the gills. Warmer months, your November right through to April, May, right? That's when it starts to cool off again, is usually your peak periods. Now, that tends to produce more gummy sharks. Right? While in the winter, we see a lot of the gummy sharks holding deeper offshore, and they do come into the bays, but you notice in those warmer months, you do notice in those warmer months of Port Phillip Bay and Western Port, you can actually find them in 7 or 8 meters of water where there's a little bit of a slope. But then when you start heading into your cooler months, you notice you're going to have to start hitting those deeper chop offs, deeper channel edges, and so forth like that. Offshore the same. You can find them in 15, 16, sometimes in the warmer months offshore. But then once you get into those real colder months, you start finding them in those deeper drop-offs, those deeper areas, right? You want to target around the slack tide. So what I'm talking about is you want to launch your boat, say, let's go. We're going now, mate. It's 11 a.m. The tide's not till 1 p.m. Right? So there's a slack water at 1. Right? So you head down to the boat ramp, you head out, go and catch some calamari or whatever for the fresh bait, which we'll go into soon. So you go bait hunting, or you can go target some other species. Once you start to get to 1 o'clock, right, so you got on the water, say 12, by the time you left your house at 11, you get on the water by 12, you give yourself an hour or so to go and target some other species or go have a bit of bait collecting, okay? You get to your grounds around that 1 o'clock. That's your slack water. Now, no flow, no going with gummies. So you're going to be on that ground getting yourself ready for the gummy sharks. So when you're targeting the gummy sharks, the best times of the tide is 3 hours either side. Now, I did have a comment the other week where on the snapper tactics episode, which I would have loved to keep it up, but he swore a lot in it, the bloke. So I had to remove the comment because there is kids on this channel. Yeah, guys, so be careful. Bit of respect. Where I explained about with the snapper, 3 hours either side of the tide, and he was saying, "No, that's 6 hours, you know, you blah, blah, blah. Don't you know what you're talking about?" Well, obviously that fella didn't listen to the last episode properly, so I'm going to go through it again in case he's watching again, or if any other people got, or any other of you guys got confused. So when I say 3 hours either side of the tide, I mean you'll fish your 3 hours lead up to the top of the tide, then you've got your slack water, then you've got your 3 hours on the other side of the tide, the run out, right? The 3 hours either side is your peak periods. So you want to fish that first 2.5, 3 hours, right? No, you want to fish that last 2.5, 3 hours of the tide, right? So at the end of the peak, just before it finishes, right? Now, what I'm talking about, the tide change, is yes, you don't want to fish that slack water, correct? Now, what I was trying to explain in the other episode, which I'm going to explain again in this one, is when I say 3 hours either side of a tide, I mean that lead up, right? So you've got your lead up to the tide change, and then you've got your other side of your tide. So either side of the tide, right? Your lead up and your start of the run out, right? Or the end of the run out, slack leading into the run in. So we're going to go tide run in to run out, just to explain it a bit better. So what I mean is you want your 3 hours leading up to the tide change is your peak period for your gummy sharks, right? Then you have your slack water. Then you have your 3 hours just before the peak again. So when I'm saying the 3 hours either side of the tide, I'm talking about the last 3 hours and the last 3 hours. Each tide is 6 hours, correct, right? Like that other fellow was trying to point out. But when it's dead tide and then coming up, halfway through the tide is your peak of your tide, correct? So you want that back end of the peak. So again, I'm going to explain. So you got your last 3 hours of the run in, then your slack. Then you got your first 3 hours of the run out before the peak, then it goes slack, yeah? So you want 3 hours either tide. So you want to be fishing 3 hours either side of the tide. Give or take 2.5, 3 hours. Depends on how long you want to fish for. And why I say that is that's the peak bite period for a gummy shark. So your tide change, that is your tide change, correct? So you want to be fishing the tide changes. You don't want to fish the change, which is the flat bit, right, which is no flow. You want to fish either side of the change. Now that's where I say 3 hours either side or 2.5 either side, or 2.5 hours either side, give or take. It depends on what you like to do. Right, so now we're going to cover where the gummies live. Now, gummies are bottom feeding species, okay? So they're bottom dwelling, they live near the bottom, they don't sit mid-water, they don't sit on the top, they're not pelagic, right? So they live along reef edges, drop-offs, sandy patches that lead into a drop-off, or sandy patches that lead into a reefy structure that has a bit of a slope. Gummies, they're bottom species. They're a dwelling species. Now that means they feed off the bottom. They're not like your snapper, your salmon, your tuna, your kingfish and stuff like that, where they will feed from the bottom all the way to the top. Gummy sharks are bottom feeders. They feed right along the bottom, right? They love that sandy area, believe it or not. That's why you catch them at the back of the beaches, but you want that sandy areas that are leading into a reefy drop-off, right? Or a channel edge, or just a massive drop-off, right? So before any kind of drop, you always will have sand leading into rubble, leading to reef, and then you've got your drop, okay? They will move in and out of the drop-offs. Like I said, they use drop-offs and channels and stuff like that, like the Western Ring Road. Let's think about it as the Western Ring Road. They just cruise up and down those when they're feeding. You always want to be sitting near the edge of a drop-off or near the edge of a channel and so forth. So you'll find that drop on your sounder. Now, what did I tell you before? That's where the water flows the most, right? So if you've got a no tidal area, but you've got a big drop-off, there's always going to be a bit of a water flow there. That's what the gummies need to feed. So if you're going to be fishing, say, let's go where they live in Port Phillip Bay, okay? So you got your Coles Channel, your West Channel, your Mud Island. I'll go into why the Mud Island in a minute, all right? And then you've got your South Channel. You've got Werribee, all right? You've got Clifton Springs. They're the main peak areas of Port Phillip Bay where the gummy sharks live. So if we look at the map here, and this is the reason why. Coles Channel, drop off, leads into a channel. See the sand? Now everyone knows that St. Leonard's Coles Channel has all sand, goes rubbly, goes into the channel, comes back out, sand patches again. That's what I'm talking about, right? Then you've got the West Channel, which has sand leading into rubbly channel, leading back out of a rubble channel, leading back onto sand and high current areas. You got Mud Island. Mud Island's full of sand, rubble and stuff, and then there's a drop off at the end of Mud Island. They come through there to feed, okay? Then you've got the South Channel, which is just a massive tidal flow. They love that area because around the South Channel, people know, you've got your muddy, sandy bottom, then you've got the channel edge. Channel edge will have a natural structure to it, okay? Gummies are going to be up and down that channel, coming in and out to feed, almost like what snapper do, all right? Then you've got the Clifton Springs Channel. They do get them along there. I have caught them there too. I've caught school sharks there too, right? And when you're hearing about Werribee South gummy sharks, between you and me, I'll tell you why. This is where they usually get them. Don't tell anyone, right? Now, you hear about gummies getting caught off Werribee South. It's usually around that old riverbed because that's a drop-off, all right? So don't tell anyone that one. That was our little secret. Where else in Port Phillip Bay you're going to be targeting your gummy sharks? Let's go where else. So you want the mouth, you want the entries of bays and estuaries as well. Gummy sharks need that entry point because that's where all the food is coming in and out, right? So they're going to be cruising along, hunting, looking for food in the mouth of bays and estuaries. Now, if you're going to be fishing the entry to Port Phillip Bay and you're going to be offshore, you're going to want to be around these areas where the drop-offs are, so leading off into a drop-off around that Barwon Heads or the back of Point Nepean area. You want to be looking for your reefy kind of structure and drops, yeah? Anywhere that can go from 10 metres to 15 or even 10 metres to 20 metres. Bigger the drop-off, sometimes better, okay? Same as Western Port, the western entrance. You want to be outside of the western entrance. If you're going to be offshore, you're going to be at the back of Cape Schanck, right? They love Cape Schanck. There's a couple of good drop-offs around Cape Schanck. And then right near the western entrance as well, offshore, at the back of Mornington and stuff like that, you've got all those little reefy drop-offs, like I'm showing here on relief shading, that are going to want to hold gummy sharks, okay? Now, inside Western Port, where you're going to be, inside the western entrance, you want to be around that Buoy 13 and all that, just on the edge, right? You want to be right on that edge of that channel. It's the same as Port Phillip Bay. Where you want to be on the inside of the bay, if you want to go as close as you can to Port Phillip Heads within safety, you're going to be wanting to target the Coles Channel, West Channel, Mud Island, South Channel, okay? That's where your entrance to your bays is. Now, why they love to hang around those entrances, like I said, food flows in and out, right? They will come along, pick up anything they can off the bottoms in those areas. So I'm going to go into baits. Now, gummy sharks, being a bottom species, they'll almost feed on anything. Okay, I've caught them on silver whiting, I've caught them on pilchards, like the last trip I managed to get out on, which the client said, hey, let's film the guide together, but just do the fish action bits as you guys know. We got him on a half a pilchard. So, gummy sharks aren't really that fussy, okay? They're not fussy when it comes to feeding. They're bottom dwellers. Like I said, when stuff dies on the bottom, they'll eat it, right? So your best baits are, I think if you have caught a few gummies before, you would know what I'm starting to talk about in this area. So let's go through the baits. Fresh squid. Strips, rings, or heads. That's it, right? You don't need to go fancy. Oh, there's one other little bait that I like to use. Warning. Language warning. They actually call it this, and I'm not being rude, right? I am not being rude. Cock and a sock. So, what I mean by that is you got your pilchard or a slimy stuffed into a squid tube, and then your hooks go through that bait together. It adds smell, it adds scent, and it's like a burger for the gummies, if you get what I'm saying. So you got your squid strips, you got your in a sock. Then we're going to go into salmon, trevally. They love those kind of baits. Those baits, again, do not do them in fillets. I recommend chunk baits for gummy sharks when it comes to those fleshy baits as well. Eel, now a lot of people say cured eel is one of the best baits for gummies. Me personally, I don't like them. I've never had that much success on cured eel. Now, where they say cured eel is good for gummy sharks is when there's big flush outs and big rains like we had. Freshwater eels get pushed out into the salt water. They eventually die. Gummy shark, or they get sick and they get weakened by the salt water or whatever it is. They die, and the gummy sharks just eat them. Right? I just say that just happens to be in front of them. If they do eat them, they're not sitting there looking for them. So I try to avoid gummy sharks. Mullet's really good. Now, I say mullet's probably really good because it smells a bit. That yellow-eye mullet I'm talking about, or sea-run mullet. Pike. So snook, pike, whatever you want to call them, these ugly-looking things, they have a real big bad scent to them, and they love them. Gummy sharks can smell them from a mile away. Barracudas, again, they have that smell to them. Gummy sharks love those. Yakkers, same as a snapper bait, but right now, one of the ultimate baits I would dare say to use for a gummy shark, if you can buy them, awesome. If you can't buy them and you're out on the grounds and you can catch them, even better. Parrotfish. They love it. I don't know what it is about parrotfish, but they'll choose that over anything else. Would you believe it or not? You put a chunk of parrotfish down and there's a gummy cruising through, you're going to get him. I'm telling you. So all your baits have to be a firm, fleshy, oily kind of a scent, except for your calamari. Now, with gummy sharks, scent is everything. They don't rely on eyesight to look for stuff. So you think about it. What did I say the peak times are for gummy sharks? Well, I haven't gone through your actual peak times, but your best times at the moment, which is sunset, dusk, and into the night. They're not using their eyesight for that. They're using their senses. Gummies are like every other shark. They have the best sense of smell. So the oilier, the more smellier the bait, the better it is. Here's another tip. When you're fishing with salmon, yakkers, cuda, do not bleed them. Do not bleed them. Leave it in there. More smell, more scent, the more better. More chances. Right. I'm going to go into hooks and stuff. And then we're going to go into the best times. I'm going to go into detail about the times to target these things. But let's go into hook sizes. You don't want nothing more than a circle hook in a 6.0, 7.0, and 8.0. They're your three main hooks. 6.0, 7.0, 8.0s. Don't need 9.0s, don't need 5.0s. Okay? Circle hooks, always do not use suicides, do not use any other kinds, right? C point, whatever you want to call them. It has to be a circle hook, right? Doesn't matter the brand, but circle hook. Now, the reason why is gummy sharks will sit there and munch and then they turn and they run, right? That's where you get the zzz, right? Gummy sharks always will get hooked in the corner of the mouth with a circle hook. Right? You can have them snelled, you can have them singled, you can have them whichever way you want. On guide, I do go through a lot of rigs that people don't even use for gummies, and I've got an encyclopedia up here of rigs that work for gummies, trust me. Now, before I go into line class, and rods and stuff like that, I want to cover a little bit of extra information on times to target them. Now, gummy sharks, like I said, they're most active at night, dusk into the night. Or you can go pre-dawn into the first light as well if you need to. But don't be disheartened about that. Now, there's a lot of myths out there and a lot of apparent research into gummy sharks and says, yeah, you can only do afternoons into the night or in the dark into the daylight. No. Now, if you remember from my old channel, we used to target gummies a lot during the day. Hear me out. Gummy relies on the moon phases, like I told you in that previous bit, all right? Moon phases or tide changes, okay? So it could be a bright sunny day, not as bright as this. This is cloudy. I'm talking about brighter. 25, sunny, beautiful. All you're going to want to do is be deeper. That's all you need to be, deeper, okay? So you don't want to have to sit there at home and say, for tomorrow I can only fish between 9 and 1 p.m. I can't go. It's not dusk. It's not dawn. Damn it. They're not going to bite. That's a load of crap. All right? As long as there's a tide change in the bays I'm talking about, you'll be right. Offshore, I don't care who you are. I don't care how experienced you are. You don't want to be offshore at night. So offshore, just fish deeper. So if you're fishing offshore for gummy sharks, you go out whenever you want. If there's a tide change, that's going to be beneficial for you. Try and still aim for that tide change, guys. Doesn't matter where you are. Tide change. I can't speak that enough. Anyway, you just want to be, again, deeper. So in that 25 to 30, 40 I was talking about, maybe if it's broad daylight, go 30 to 50, 60, 70, right? And you'll still find them as long as you've got a tide change and bait in the area and rubble and stuff like that, okay? So there's a little bit of a technical side for you guys. Now, I want to go into lines, reels, and rods, okay? Probably the three most important things before hooks, because you don't get them right, you ain't going to catch fish. So, a 10 to 15 kilo rod is perfect. You can go 7 to 10 kilo, perfect. Don't go any lighter, don't go any stronger. Don't go any lighter because if you hook that monster, you're going to struggle. Don't go any heavier because it's like a broomstick. You don't want to be using tuna gear on gummies. Do you get what I'm saying? You don't want that 15, 20, 25 kilo stick. Trust me, you just be sitting there trying to drag the thing in. You want to enjoy the fight of the fish, correct? Now, those who are interstate are thinking, is this episode seriously on gummy sharks? Victorians all there, you don't understand how good they are to eat. We're lucky enough to have them good down here. Okay, so they're our second to our snapper. All right, so for the interstate guys, there you go. But yeah, like I said, 10 to 15, 7 to 10. I use a lot of 7 to 10s because I like to fight the fish. I like to feel that run and pulsate from the gummy. I don't like to sit there and go, oh yeah, sweet. Oh, that actually hurt. You know what I'm saying? All right, so your rods, yeah, 10 to 15, 7. Well, let's go 7 to 10, 10 to 15, okay? They're your rod classes. Now, reels, I only use, you don't have to, but I've got a few of them, that's why I use them. Saragosas. Now, my Saragosas, now if you're thinking, oh, that's a bit expensive, mate, do I really have to go and buy that reel? No, you don't. But the reason why you buy that reel, and I'll tell you right now, I've got 4, 5, 6, 7 Saragosas. Would you believe it? They're 8 years old. And they still work brand new. They are the poor man's Stella. Trust me. As long as you maintain them, as long as you service them. I know people who haven't serviced them and still work. I've dropped one to the bottom of Port Phillip Bay, brought it back up, gave it a rinse. Still good. Yeah, do that with any other reel. These things work good. The only thing I did have to do with the Saragosas is change the washers. I ordered them from Shimano. And that's just pure because when I used it on the tuna and stuff like that, tuna do tend to burn the rubber washers out a little bit. That's it. So Saragosas for the longevity. So yeah, Saragosas for your longevity, right? But you don't have to go Saragosas. Any good quality reel that's even cheaper than a Saragosa, as long as it's a 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, 5 to 8,000. That's all you need, right? I would use 10,000, 8, 10s, and 12,000s or whatever they are. I would use 8 to 10,000 if I was offshore, just in case you come across something bigger. You don't want to catch something big oogly down on the bottom and it just spools you, you know what I mean? Big rays and stuff like that. But in general, 5 to 8,000 size reels. No more, no less. Line class, 30-pound braid. Always braid, don't go mono. 30-pound braid. If you have to go more in case you're chasing tuna or other stuff like kingies and stuff, 40 to 60, that range, okay? 40 to 60, that way you can always change up species. Leaders, now I hear a lot through a lot of the grapevines, you've got to use 80, you've got to use 70 pound, you've got to use 60 pound. No, you don't. I use 50 pound, I use 60 pound, that's it. 40 pounds sometimes even. Depends on the grounds I'm on, okay? If I'm in Port Phillip Bay, I'll probably try and get away with 40. Lighter the leader, the more hookups you actually get. So if I'm in Port Phillip Bay, I'll use 40, 50 pounds. If I'm in Western Port, 60, 70, 80 pounds, right? That's because of all the sharks and the rays. If I'm offshore, 50, 60 pounds, right? There, that's it. Keep it simple, stupid. Keep the KISS method going, yeah? Keep it simple, stupid. Now, the leaders, you don't want them supple. You want them tough traces. You want them high abrasion resistance because you're going to be fishing reef edges, drop-offs, channel edges. It's going to have a lot of rubble on the bottom, yeah? You don't want to be caught out, it rubbing along the reef edge and gone, okay? So, another tip I'm going to have for you guys, fish smarter, not harder, all right? Using your fresh baits. So as fresh as you can get them. If you can catch them that day, catch them that day. If you have to freeze them, freeze them. If you don't have to freeze them and you can leave them in the fridge, do so. And when I mean fresh too, you don't have to always go to a tackle store and buy the frozen ones and think, yep, sweet, that's fresh enough. If you can go to a fish market, it might cost you a little bit more. If you can't go and target your bait, if you can go to a fish market and get a fresh couple of salmon, trevally or cooters or whatever they've got, get them, yakus, slimies, because it's going to be beneficial for you. So, and leave them in the fridge overnight. All right, get them the day before, leave them in the fridge. That's it. Beautiful, right? Focus on your tide changes, right? You want to be around that 2.5, 3 hours either side of your tide changes. You want to be targeting that rubbly bottom just before a drop-off. So if you've got a sandy bottom leading to rubble and then a drop-off, you're going to want to be fishing that sandy into rubble just before the drop. You don't want to be on the drop, you want to be just before the drop because that's what they're doing. They're cruising up and down like a highway. They'll smell your baits, they'll come to you. Now, tide. Try and find somewhere with a bit of water flow. Like I said with gummies, no flow, no go, right? Now, once you get your first gummy, you're going to know what I'm talking about by the lighter the rod, the better. So 7 to 10, 10 to 15. You want to feel that fight. It is so good. It is so good. I love the fight of them. All right. Measurements. Let's go into measuring a gummy shark. Please, partial length. Do not feed. Do not measure your gummy shark nose to tail like you would with a snapper or whiting and stuff like that. Do not. It is not. It's from the last gill to the base of your tail. You'll feel it. Okay, you'll feel it. What you're going to get as a fillet, and the minimal legal size in Victoria is 45 centimeters. I don't like that. I never have, never will be a fan of it. If I have to measure my gummy shark, I throw it back. There's another rule of thumb. If you have to measure it, throw it back. You want them to breed, okay? Me, it's not a rule. It's not a, I'm not going to preach it to you, but I tend to let females go. They are breeders. Doesn't matter the size of them. Males, I'll keep. I have no problems with that. Females are always pupping. We don't know if they're small and they're pregnant when we keep them. Unless it's swallowed the hooks and it's bleeding through the gills, like I've had a couple of females do. Didn't look pregnant. Opened it up. Unfortunately, she had a couple of little pups in her. If you do, unfortunately, keep a pup, gummy shark that's pupping, and you know it's pupping, and you can open the stomach properly. If those pups are moving in her stomach, let them go. They'll swim off. 9 times out of 10, they'll probably survive. So if you can let them go while they're alive, you've done a good thing. Okay. Again, time of the year, peak periods is warmer months, and I'm only going to say that because a lot more people are fishing for them. Okay. So they're all year round generally, but you get more activity in the summer. Now, why they're a perfect all year round species, when the snapper have gone for the winter, or they've slowed down and you're targeting winter snapper, like I like to do too, and it's hard to bite, gummy sharks are your best next options besides whiting. So if you want to target something big, like a snapper or a gummy shark, you'd go gummy sharks in the winter, because even though the bite's a lot less, you've got more chances of hooking a gummy shark in the winter. Offshore especially, right? If the tuna are quiet, go to a drop-off, start to set everything up, and you're going to find pretty soon if there's gummies in the area. Cover again, don't have to sound for them. You just sit on their likely highways, okay? Now, found this episode very, very helpful, all right? Drop us a like, subscribe to the channel, because that helps the channel as well. Comment on below where your favorite gummy shark ground is, right? And what you like to use to target them. And let's get the conversation going. How's that, all right? So guys, I'll see you out in the water, tight lines, and I'll see. So guys, tight lines everyone. I'll see you in the next episode of Born to Fish. I hope this episode helps you catch more fish. And oh, by the way, let's keep the tactics theme going. Keep an eye out for in the near future of another tactics episode. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.